Well, today is National Mental Health Awareness Day, and I thought it was important to not do my normal hateful monologuing, as one commenter put it. Oh, the sun disappeared. Is that negative? And now it came out. That's positive. No hateful monologuing. Today we're going to look at a bunch of information and we're going to find the bright sides of it. And pay a little respect to Master Kim Jung Gis later. I bought these brush pens this morning. These are absolutely beautiful. If you could see that. I bought two of them. I got one with kind of a longer tip, and I got one that's a bit shorter, a little finer tip. I'm really looking forward to using these later. I'm sure whatever I make will just be absolute trash. But I promise to enjoy the process, and regardless of the outcome, I'm excited. So I also went ahead and I purchased a couple of books from the Kim Jung Gis website, and I'm pretty excited about this. I got the 2022 sketch collection and the 2016 sketch collection, and I almost bought this one. I didn't know what this was. It's in a box. It's very low key, but I don't even know if I could show this on here. Maybe I'm gonna get in trouble. But this is his kind of erotic book that he made, and I was gonna give one to my mother, and I really wanted like one of the normal sketchbooks. First of all, they have more pages, and that's the art that we've all come to love. You know, the animals, the anthropomorphized animals and the vehicles, and I'm sure this has tons of that stuff in there, but I really couldn't leave the erotic book at my mother's house, especially after how much I've told her about Master Kim. I would have very much liked to have it, but I could really only afford to buy two. One thing I do want to point out is that I guess currently it says, due to increased order volume, their current estimate is that the order will be shipped within 6 to 8 weeks. So all I can say is that I'm not the only one who had this idea. It sounds like a lot of people are doing that. And it sucks that this is the circumstances that so many people are doing it, but it is kind of a beautiful thing, I would say. And I'm very happy to spend my money there. I could definitely think of a million worse ways to spend my money. If anyone else has a couple extra bucks laying around, go buy some of his stuff. Go buy some of those books. Not only are you supporting his family, I mean, each one of those books is like between 450 and 500 pages. It's probably going to be about this fucking thick. So, I mean, for $100 for a hardcover book of 500 pages of Master Kim's drawings, dude, it's an absolute no-brainer. But today is Good News Day, and I've got a couple of things lined up that I want to talk about that I think are generally positive. Now, I do want to talk about one thing off the cuff that gives me a little bit of hope in this entire AI art apocalypse that we're going through. And that is, when you think about newly formed industries, right? The way that their trajectory generally goes, how those business models work, and how laws always catch up. Like the tech comes first, and then laws and regulations come later as information comes to light. So if you think about like the chemical industry, maybe around like the turn of the century, you know, they used to put arsenic in the wallpaper, and people were dropping dead left and right. Like, they would make a new chemical and just do whatever the hell they wanted with it. It's just like, oh, we can use it for this, we can use it for that, without really understanding or realizing the negative effects about it. And then once that information comes to light, laws and legislation catch up. So this AI art generation is new, right? Laws and legislation will catch up. It is inevitable. Like right now, all of these data set aggregators and for-profit art image generators, and let's be clear, they're all for-profit business. Like, even though they want to say, oh, it's like we're democratizing art, you're really not, because every single one of them you have to pay for, whether it's a subscription base, whether you buy tokens, whether you're buying GPU time, you're paying. Somebody is making money. If somebody wasn't making money, then nobody would be doing this thing. So there is hope. It's all very much to be determined, right? And while it does seem bleak, the fact of the matter is that right now, the way that the laws work, right? We're doing good news, by the way. I know it doesn't sound like good news, but we're absolutely doing good news today. The way that the copyright laws kind of work is that, or specifically the commercial rights agreement that you get from like Midjourney or Dali, somehow they give you commercial rights to use whatever you make in there, which seems a little silly, but they give you the commercial rights, but it's explicitly stated that if you run afoul of someone's intellectual property or someone's copyright material, that you are absolutely on your own. Now, I would like to hang a lantern on that by saying that I don't think that's how it will go, because we haven't seen one of these cases yet. The precedent for this has not been set. And I think whenever the first court case comes, and it will come, because already I'm seeing things that I think are already legally actionable. It's just a question about somebody running afoul of someone who has the resources to go after these people. So without getting into specific examples, I'll just say it is going to happen. And my point being, rainbows. My point being that when that happens, right, when that first legal battle over AI users infringing on either copyright or somebody's likeness or an intellectual property, even though it explicitly states in the terms of service of Dali, of Stability, of Midjourney, that you're on your own, I don't think that, and this isn't really the point, this isn't good news, this is just kind of more a hypothetical speculation, that there's no way that they are going to sit out. There is no way that Midjourney or OpenAI, which is heavily backed by Elon Musk, that they're going to sit this out, because that court case, whatever that initial court case is going to establish a precedent. And that will have major effects on their business model, right? So this is kind of a no-brainer. So whether they can overtly get involved or whether they're going to do it by proxy and just funnel money into it, they will be involved because it's going to affect their bottom line. But the good news part, right? As I said, it's Mental Health Awareness Day. We are doing good news, is that this hasn't happened yet. So there is still so much to be determined, because this is like a new business, right? And I don't know if I mentioned this already, because I woke up at 2 a.m. My brain is absolutely not working at all. I feel like an 8-bit Pong version of myself. I think it's important to mention, again, how these companies did in the beginning and how regulations and laws caught up. This is the same exact thing. It's the Wild West. The way that businesses tend to work is, especially in America, USA, we just do shit, and then if there's a problem, we deal with it. And when I say we, I mean them, right? Big companies, big money, they will take advantage of a situation, and then they will just deal with the aftermath, and they will make just calculated monetary decisions, right? Look at the opioid epidemic. right, with the Sackler family. They made billions of dollars. And even though that one case actually did get to a high level and they had to pay out an absurd amount of money, they all still retained an absolutely obscene amount of wealth. Look at petrochemical companies. Look at Monsanto with all of their pesticides that are pretty much everybody knows causes cancer right now. It has cost them almost nothing to settle all these lawsuits. And I think they look at it as a cost of doing business. Now, those are major, huge companies. A lot of the companies that we're talking about, even though I said OpenAI is backed by Elon Musk, like Midjourney is a pretty small company. Dolly is a relatively small company. And I don't know if they're going to have the resources to fight that like that. But this is Good News Day. So the reason I even bring this all up, where legislation is coming, technology gets out in front of the legal aspect of it, is because I found this article here, and I do want to address something that I saw in here. And basically, it is that there is a woman named Daniela Braga. She works on the White House Task Force for AI Policy. And what's that, you say? White House Task Force for AI Policy? Yes, that is a thing. And that is a good thing. And that fills us with hope. Now, again, our main concern that we talk about on this channel is these AI and art. I am a huge proponent of technology. I think 99% of artists are huge proponents of technology. I mean, we all love science fiction. We all can't wait to see pictures of exoplanets, like live images of exoplanets. Like, we don't fear technology. So Daniela Braga, she is this White House task force person. And she became aware of the issue with Greg Rakowski. Now, we covered this in a previous video, and if you don't know who Greg Rakowski is, just go look him up. Everyone knows who Greg Rakowski is because apparently everybody knows who Greg Rakowski is. His name is the #1 most used style prompt in any of these image generators. I think it was used over 93,000 times. And this woman, Daniela Braga, she became aware of the issue with that. And she became aware of the fact that they're using his work without his consent. Now, this is a direct quote from her in this Forbes article. And it says, "They're training the AI on his work without his consent. I need to bring that up to the White House." So, yes, a woman who works in the White House AI task force has been made aware of these style prompts and the way the databases are being aggregated, and she said that she needs to bring it up to the White House. That very much goes into the good news column. So that's amazing. Now, whatever's going to come of it, I don't know. Money talks. No one really cares about artists, but if they really are concerned about the ethics here, then this is a very, very good sign. So she said, if these models have been trained on the styles of living artists without licensing that work, there are copyright implications. She said there are rules for that. This requires a legislative solution. So if that's not some good news, right? Because as I said, the technology moves faster than the laws. I just kind of spun myself around for 10 minutes getting that point across. There's a lot of information there. It's hard to kind of distill it all into like a perfect little sound bite, because you could pick any industry you want and extrapolate from there. But she's basically saying that this could require a legislative solution, and that's absolutely amazing. She went on to say that regulation might be the only answer because it's not technically possible to untrain AI systems or create a program where artists can opt out if their work is already part of the data set. The only way to do it is to eradicate the whole model and then rebuild it around, consensual data usage, right? Ethical data usage. And I get that. And I have absolutely no problem with that. The question is, would any of these companies do that? I mean, if they're forced to, they might. And really quick, I just want to touch on that, going back to how America is really just like, we do shit and then deal with it later. These companies really should have done this the other way. And I know that's not how business works. They're just like, whatever, let's see what we can get away with. We need to make money. We want it to happen fast. But if they had created these data sets or built their models with an opt-in feature, and then gone around and maybe hired staff of like 200 people, or even had people working at home. Fuck, they could have even gotten people to do this for almost minimum wage, right? To just go around and contact artists and say, hey, we are building this data set. We absolutely love your work. We'd love to train our AI with it. And depending upon how high profile the artist is, they can offer them some compensation or some sort of fair arrangement, and then let that person opt into it. But obviously they didn't do that. And I understand why they didn't do that, right? That's time consuming. They probably figured there would be zero problem with them just kind of like scraping the entire internet and dealing with it later. And that's kind of how these things work. It would have been nice, but maybe once there is legislation, once there is some sort of regulation, we might be looking at something like that. What I said, this is good news day, guys. This is good news day. After Kim Jung Gis, we need good news. We need to look at the positives and think about potential positive outcomes. It's not something we do a lot on this channel, and honestly, it feels fucking fantastic. So, Daniela Braga, AI Task Force, these are all very good things. Another thing I want to touch on is that there is this website here. And what this website does is essentially let you search through the Lion 5B database. Now, this apparently has the entire database. Now, if you didn't know what 5B stands for, and Lion is the company, L-A-I-O-N, 5B stands for 5 billion. That is how many images they have scraped from the internet. I know, I said this is good news day. That's a lot of images, but this lets you search through all that. Now, apparently this website it looks like it actually changed a little bit from when I first looked at it maybe a week ago. It did say that it was empowering artists to opt out, which makes no sense to me. And as we, just read in that article, you can't like pull it out. Like you can't untrain it. But it doesn't really matter, because the thing I'm taking away from the existence of this website is that fundamental shift where people are starting to realize kind of what's going on. And there's a lot more human beings out there who do have an appropriately calibrated sense of right and wrong, right? Not everybody is willing to just devalue artists immediately because they have access to this fun, neat black box of a toy. The fact that this exists bodes well for the overall mentality and the perception of this new paradigm. So you can go to haveibeentrained.com. All right, let's pull this down a little bit. Hey, haveibeentrained.com, and you can search for yourself. I will also put the link to our reachable or searchable version of the Lion 5e database. It doesn't quite have as much images, and I'm not sure it has an image lookup, but you can look at that and you can look in here. And these are all really good things, right? These are really positive things. Another thing I do want to touch on that I think is a positive is that we don't know what's going to happen in 5 or 10 years, right? And we don't know what's going to happen in 1 year. But right now, no big art studio, maybe very small art studios, maybe independent creators. I mean, I can tell you right now that I've personally lost a few clients to generative image making. And they've even told me, because they're like, hey, what do you think about this thing that I'm working on? But these clients that I'm talking about are like independent musicians who do album cover design and stuff. And they don't have a ton of money. Granted, I do what I do for them at a tiny fraction of what my rates are. Part of that is because I love musicians. I am a musician. I'm not an amazing musician, but I've been playing music generally my entire life. I can play a few different instruments, and creating art, creating music, it's the same exact thing. So I generally tend to bond with the musicians that I work with, and I become emotionally invested in their success and their projects. And I just, to me, it's not about the money, and they don't really have money. So it's really difficult for me to fault a client who I know isn't made out of money. If he wants to play with these tools and maybe create some artwork for his small independent album, I can't fault him for that, and I won't. And I actually won't make him feel bad. One thing that I can do is just instruct him or her to please don't use artist style prompts. I said, there's an more ethical way to use these tools. I can give them my opinion, but I don't want to make them feel bad. I mean, I get it. I get it. The tool has multiple layers to it in my mind. I'm not going to really get into all of it, but I feel like there's an ethical way to use it. And then there's the absolute like douche nozzle way to use it, where it's like you type in some shit and you go in the style of Art Germ, Greg Rakowski, Craig Mullins, and name 10 other artists, and then take that and say, I'm an artist. Look what I made. I'm fucking transcendent artist. Fuck you, art nerds. I'm better than you. Like, nobody likes that. That's not okay. And when I see those people pop up, I will 100% skewer the shit out of them on the channel. No big studio right now. You know, some small studio, smaller creators might use this thing, but no big studio is willing to take the risk because of the things that we talked about, where the copyright, where the law hasn't caught up to the technology, right? There's a lot of reasons why a big in-house studio just can't use these tools yet, right now. Again, we don't know what's going to happen in a year. We don't know what's going to happen in 5 years, 10 years. But right now, they really can't afford the potential legal jeopardy. So if you're still learning Photoshop, if you're still learning 3D, don't fall into the trap that I fell into very recently, where it completely deflated me. I didn't want to work on my stuff anymore. I didn't want to learn. And that sucked because I love that. I love creating. My whole identity, essentially my personal identity and sense of self-worth, like so many of you and people who I respect out there, revolves around, I don't want to say being an artist because it sounds incredibly pretentious, but just around your skills that you've developed. So saying that no big studio right now is going to use AI tools because of the potential legal jeopardy right now, I don't know how long that's going to hold out, but it's Good News Day. Rainbows. Look at the rainbows. Don't let it steal your creative thunder. Master Kim wouldn't want that. Again, I don't know Master Kim's mind, but I know he wants all of us to continue to draw, to continue to create, continue to follow our creative urges and manifest them. And if jobs will still be there in 2 years, it's worth putting in the work right now. Now, I have heard stories about smaller studios that are absolutely using these tools, but the big projects that we want to work on, which I'll probably never work on, at least not in the capacity as a concept artist, although I have done graphic design for some large projects, it's just not happening today. And that's good news. Again, we don't know what's happening in 5 years, but right now we do have a little bit of time. And I want everyone to keep their fires absolutely burning. We cannot stop creating. It's so important for you to feel like what you're doing has value. And even if it doesn't have the most monetary value, or even if you feel like you're just being drowned out under this tidal wave, this gargantuan wave of very easy to produce AI art, we're getting something out of it that those people aren't getting. And that is the satisfaction and the enjoyment of the process, right? Creating something intrinsically comes with its own runner's high. Like when I made some stuff in Midjourney or DALL-E, when I was first experimenting with these tools, yeah, it took a few minutes. And at first I was like, oh, this is really neat. But that fades so quickly. That's not a real sense of satisfaction. We as artists do get a real sense of satisfaction. It's that meditative quality, that how your mind, your alpha waves change when you're painting or creating or drawing or writing a song, or all that bullshit, all those terrible things that maybe happened to you a year ago, maybe are happening to you today, they all melt away, right? That has value. And we can never lose sight of that, my friends. I think it's really important. Let's see, what other tabs do we have on here? No, I honestly feel like that's kind of it. So just to recap all of the good news. 1, the laws will catch up. The AI dataset fuckery, something's going to have to give. 2, there is a White House task force that has been made aware of this. There's also the EU AI Act, which is coming, and that's also good news. 3, you are important, and you are all absolutely beautiful, and I love you all. Even if you hate me and you think I'm a toxic, hateful monologuist, you're not wrong. I fucking love all of you, and that is very sincere. And what's the other good news? Well, the mentality is shifting, right? The conversation is absolutely shifting. And there is a way for these tools, which are scaring the shit out of so many of us, there is a way for them to meld into the kit. Now, at this point, I've talked so much shit about this that I almost feel like even if I wanted to use the tools in that capacity, I just can't, because I would be such a fucking hypocrite. But I do want that to be a thing. I don't want to say we just have to eradicate this. It's fucking stupid, right? We're not technophobes. We're not Luddites. We love new technology. We just, artists have an inflated sense of morality. We are emotional people, which is why we're artists, which is why we manifest our emotions in some sort of medium to share that feeling with others. And a lot of the people who aggressively defend this tech, I feel like they're almost on the opposite. They can only see it in technological terms. There's no right and wrong. It's just like, well, this tech exists, so you all have to bow down, you know? We're the new artists. Screw you guys. You're not worth anything. And that's a very difficult mentality to keep banging your head against. So when you see that stuff, just ignore it. That doesn't mean you shouldn't call out shitheads. When you see shitheads on Twitter or online or on YouTube, you should absolutely call them out. But don't get into that spiral of trying to have a moral conversation with someone who doesn't or isn't capable of engaging that conversation on that level. So this is the thing that I learned this week with the video that I made about Kim Jung Gis and some of the comments I got, and how I tried to, tried to make my case, tried to explain basic human decency, and they just didn't get it. And it was absolutely infuriating. So my lesson that I learned is just don't do that. Don't do that anymore. Even if you have to block people, that's fine too. So it's good news week. There's lots of things to be happy about. You are artists. You are creative. You have a fire inside of you that is valuable. And we can never, ever forget about that. So go draw something for Master Kim. Go draw something for yourself. Let's look for positive outcomes. Things are changing and things are evolving very quickly. And we have to just hope and advocate and basically be our own best PR. I know I was trying to wrap this up, but it does bring me to another point. Like, be our own best PR. Be the change that you want to see. Now, I know I'm not the best example of that. I am an angry, hateful monologuist. But the way that, you know, when I saw the Kim Jung Gi guy, I just, it's so upsetting. But the silver lining in that is that these guys are not doing themselves any favors. They are their own worst PR machine. They are making our argument for us better than we ever could. And as long as we stay vocal and stay vigilant and stay positive, you guys, I'm not the best at that. we can manifest these positive changes because the future is not written yet. So on that note, happy Mental Health Awareness Day, guys. Go create. I fucking love you all. And I will talk to you in the next video. And good luck in the wars to come, guys.